TLDR is Coinbase launched cbBTC on Solana. It is a one-to-one backed representation of Bitcoin on Solana. So now people with all this SOL that they required from meme coining through, playing in Jito, whatever else, they now can get exposure to Bitcoin while staying on Solana. And again, the BTC is actually custodied by a trusted party, that trusted party being Coinbase. That's what makes you think you can redeem it, similar to a stable coin, except it's Bitcoin. Cool. So it's good that they've done that on Solana. This was the first time that they've actually launched a token on Solana. That's obviously a good signal. What this did for me is it got me curious about, okay, if they're doing this, they obviously, we are aware of Solana stealing the headlines, but I wanted to go back and look at some numbers and say, okay, how much has Solana grown over this time? And is it legitimate, whatever. So just some numbers, just because I think it's interesting, because that was interesting to me. We have the growth numbers, and then we have the raw numbers that are actually grown on Solana DeFi. I'm just going to do TVL and stable coins. I think those are two predominantly accepted metrics or relevant metrics for this. So if you look at the TVL since the start of this year, you actually forget how bottom of the barrel it got. From the beginning of the year till now, it has grown 3,300% in TVL on their protocols. Now, some of that is a byproduct of the valuation of SOL actually increasing, right? Because a lot of this TVL is SOL, and as SOL appreciates, the TVL also appreciates. I get that. But again, 3,300% growth from 237 million to 7.9 billion, whereas Ethereum has grown 237%. So it has gone up, not nearly as much, right? And then you have, maybe before going into the stables, so that's an impressive number. You hear that and you go, wow, it is growing, it is doing great. But then you look at the relative numbers and see okay, raw, how big is the DeFi on Ethereum relative to SOL? And if you take the TVL at the beginning of the year, it was 1% SOL of Ethereum. So Ethereum has 25 billion USD, whereas SOL had 237 million, right? So 1% of Ethereum was SOLs. Now that has grown to 13%. Right. So it has grown percentage wise relative to Ethereum, but still it only represents 13% of what is captured in Ethereum DeFi TVL wise. So there's that. Going down to stables growth, it's been 218% for Solana and 100% for Ethereum. It's just relative growth. And then on a raw number comparison between the two, Solana at the beginning of the year was 2% of Ethereum, and now is 4%. So growing, they on both a percentage basis compared to Ethereum raw numbers, it is growing, but the scale of difference between these two things is still pretty dramatic. But when you hear that, right, you talked about it just a minute ago. When you hear that, you think, does Solana have the opportunity to close that gap, right? So you hear, some people might hear that and say, oh, Solana is still small, or you're going to hear that and say, oh, Solana is still small. There's still so much it can grow and mature and have value accrue to it. So I thought those numbers are interesting. I think honestly, it's kind of Solana cycle. Just kind of lean into it. Don't fight the narrative. I know there's a tendency to want to especially from the Ethereum side, to kind of cope because the price hasn't moved. I'm not going to fight momentum. I'm still hearing a lot of people that are more traders than myself lean into it and say they kind of have it. Just let them go and do the thing. So I'm watching it. I have full exposure. I'll keep doing that. And DeFi does seem to be picking up.